Thank you for attending Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom. What are we, number 72 now, I think? I'm your host, Greg Gaub. Got a nice big gang here with some new faces as well. I'm just going to start listing off names for the fun of it. Neil, me, Jim, John, Petrucci, Mike, Alan, Dennis, Leo, Graham, Garth, Larry, Henry, Jeremy, and Martin, and other people who don't have cameras. Brian is apparently turning on his camera. So we're going to chat about slot cars today. Because we have some newbies, we're going to let them introduce themselves, you know, who you are, where you are, whatever slot cars you like, or, you know, how you learned about slot cars, you know, as a kid, as an adult, whatever the case may be. Take it away, Jim, Mr. Rose.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jim Rose. I live in Sacramento, California, and I hate to say it, but my first real slot car was a Thunderjet 500 when it came out. So I've been racing since the early 60s. Recently, I still race T-Jets. I love freight cars. I noticed you went to the Coral this year. And so I've been doing freight cars quite a bit for the last 10 years. And for the last 4 or 5 years, 32nd scale, non-magnet routed track racing in Northern California. We have a pretty good group here in both fray and 132nd scale. We had 13 guys from Sacramento in the Bay Area over the weekend. We had about 12 for a fray race 2 or 3 weeks ago. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Awesome. Thanks. Very concise and succinct. Appreciate you joining us. Hopefully you can participate more often, and we look forward to hearing your input.
Is this the normal time? Or
he was a long-time RC car racer too.
Yes, that's true. I got out of RC cars and just quit cold turkey one day and raced RC cars extensively in the 80s and 90s. And I know, I'm not sure, Dennis, if we've ever met, but I know of you.
Yeah, we didn't ever meet at the time, although I think we may have been at the same races once or twice.
Probably, yeah. I raced D3 cars for a little bit. It just didn't take off in Northern California. So
not that well, yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Good to see you, though.
You too.
Thanks for joining us, Jim. And next on my screen is Graham. Mr. Bowden, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Graham from England. I've been into it since about 1974 when I was just about sort of 3 years old. My father introduced me. I just had this vision, it never leaves me, of a yellow Mini going past a red Mini, and I was driving the yellow one with my brothers as kids. So I'm now 50. Had a break for about, I had a nice 6-lane track, Sky Electric. This was back in about 2003. Life circumstances changed, packed it all up, sold most of it off. And last year I kind of got back into it. You just feel like something's missing and you just want to get back into it. And I love it. I've never not been into it. I just haven't had the time. So I'm just getting back into it. I'm trying to think of what to say at the moment because it's the first time I've ever used Zoom as well. I've just built myself, basically my dear wife, she must love me to bits because she just let me take the whole garden, build a huge shed, 35.5 foot by 17 foot, and that's going to be filled with track, just enough room to sit down at a food desk and repair the cars. So I can't do it now, first time learning with Zoom, but I'll get around to it and then I'll show you some proper bits on another chat another time. But for now, I'm just going to listen because I'm learning and I'm loving it.
Well, Graham, take lots of photos of your building of your shed because that in itself is a big part of what you're doing.
Well, yeah, I have been doing a little video documentary of it as well. Not a brilliant one. I'm just an average guy with a camera, few bits.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's all you have to do. You know, no one's expecting Scorsese. We just want to see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you I promise you'll definitely see it because fortunately I'm a bit of a carpenter by trade, so that's me. So obviously I've got all my tools, routers, everything, and the most important thing, I've got the enthusiasm.
Yeah. Awesome. So we look forward to a nice big routed slot car track from you in the future. Good deal. Thanks for joining us.
Whereabouts in England are you?
That's going to be my next question.
I'm in Suffolk, just on the east coast. I believe it or not, I have to drive all the way to Norwich whenever I want to have a race because there's nowhere like it. It's either here or London if I want to go and have a race on a routed wooden track. So hence I'm building it. If you can't get one, make your own.
True. Nice part of the country, Suffolk.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Again, thanks for coming, Graham. Look forward to seeing your track and you joining us in the future. Quick reminder for everybody, please leave your microphone muted just in case dings and dogs and people and whatnot make noises that you weren't planning to share on Zoom, and then unmute whenever you need to talk. Next on my screen is Larry J. Would you like to tell us about yourself, Larry?
Hi, I'm from Houston, Texas. I retired to Houston, Texas, and I started out in the early 60s when I got a figure 8 HO track. And so I used to play that all the time. I get extra tracks for my birthday or whatever, and then the neighborhood group got it. And we used to have a blast with it. And then, I started growing up, got away from it, got back in RC vehicles for a while. And I just happened to be watching different programs on YouTube, and I caught Worldwide Chat. And I started listening to you guys. This is like a TV show where I started binging on this. And I said, this is really interesting. So I did some more research, and I went out and just for the hell of it, I bought a car, and I just wanted to check it out. And now I'm researching kind of type of track and what I want to do. And I'm going to build an outfit. First, I have to sell my home. I'm looking for another home, but now I'm going to look with a home with a shed on it or something, because I think I'm planning on a nice track. And that's it for me right now. But it just bit me, and I love the detail, and I like working on things, tearing them down, putting them back together. I really was interested in chassis, the chassis building with the brass and that. It's great. So that's it for me.
Well, just a warning, Larry. This hobby makes heroin addiction look like a craving for something salty.
Well, I used to do a lot of armor modeling, airplane modeling, and auto modeling. So
you're gonna have a great layout then. Your scenery will be awesome.
Yeah, I do. I used to do a lot of scenery for people. That's what I did a lot of painting for people too. Figures it out.
Nice. Looking forward to your progress as well. So glad you could join us. Hope to see you again and see your progress. Good time to segue into show and tell. I don't think we have any other.
What about John McKenzie? John McKenzie.
Thank you, John. I just noticed John McKenzie was on. You are the co-host, by the way. Just want to.
Well, then, if I'm going to be Ed McMahon, I'm drinking.
Ah, yes. All right, John. Do you want to test your microphone, Mr. McKenzie?
Yeah, I just got my camera yesterday, so I don't even know if it's working.
You need to start video. Let me see if I can help you with that. But your microphone is definitely working. Hey, there we go. All right, tell us about Mr. McKenzie. I know you by name, but I've never seen your face.
Yeah. I'm originally from Vancouver, Canada, and I got my first scale electric set in 1960. And then my dad built a 4-lane elevated track, and his buddy had a routed track. Then I moved down to Snohomish, Washington, and there was quite a gap between the slot car racing. And then in '89, I think, I went over to West Seattle, and then Alan Smith was there. So we started racing on Saturdays. And then I was going on vacation, and I said to a couple of the guys, hey, when I get back, why don't we start a club? And when I got back, then we started PSSRA, and we started going to the hobby stores and then home built tracks, and had a lot of fun with that. Had my own track, and yeah, I've gotten out of it now. I've retired and moved down to Arizona. I'm in Goodyear, which is west of Phoenix, but I still like to build models. I started building models when I was a kid as well. So. And I've always liked to paint cars. I make my own decals. I've got an Alps printer. So, yeah. So that's about it. I've been, like I said, just got my camera yesterday. I've been watching the replay of the different chats. So I've enjoyed it. And, we used to go up to Vancouver a lot and see Luff and race with Luff. And then he'd come down to my house and race. And it was great fun. So, yeah, that's about it for now.
The legendary Iceman, everybody.
Yeah, I used to go by Iceman. That's right.
So John, Alps printer, you say? Perhaps some decals might be in order somehow, somewhere.
Yeah. I'm all set up now. I got my it's a second bedroom. I'm using that as my hobby room, and then out in the garage, I've got my spray booth. But I got to get my garage air conditioned because it's so hot in the summer here. You can't do a thing. So, yeah. So yes, but once I used to do decals for people. Yeah, I did. Yes. I think Greg, on Monday nights, I think you race. I think I know some of the people you raced with, and I did some decals for some of those fellas. So,
well, maybe the show and tell that I'll be sharing has some of your decals on it. I didn't ask Pat where he got the decals from, but they certainly could have been yours.
yeah, I did some for Pat. Yes, yes, and yeah. So I've enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm out of it now. I sold most of my cars, and the biggest thing I missed is, the racing was fun. It really was. But I just miss getting together with the guys, and just hanging out. We used to go to dinner before our races, and then we would get in and race, which was a lot of fun. And so I just miss, hanging out with the guys and stuff. So
yeah, that's pretty much what it's all about, really. And
yeah,
a fun way to hang out with a bunch of dudes.
yeah, that's for sure. We used to race a couple of nights, or Friday nights at Dale Thomas's house. And then Wednesday nights we do our league racing, and then just one last thing, what was a lot of fun too. During F1 season, I'd have everybody come to my house, and I'd tape the race because usually it was early in the morning, and we'd do an F1 race, and then I'd barbecue and stuff, and we'd all hang out and watch the car race, and so that was a fun Sunday. So it was a lot of fun. So anyway, that's it for me for now. And thanks for doing this, Brian. This has been great watching this, and it's been fun.
Well, it takes participants like you to come and make it a good show. I try not to call it a show because it's really just a bunch of us getting together and chatting and then recording it and letting other people watch it later on. John,
and that's what we've been doing. So thank you so much.
I assume you're pointing out Matt, who's new to this channel. Thanks, John. Matt, I believe you're new to the chat. Would you like to share a little bit about Matt's personal slot car history?
Yeah, hi, I'm Matt, and I am on some of the slot car online forums, so that's how I heard about this group. And I go by Aurora on the Win Them the Most, which is Slot Forum International. And my history, I guess my slot car first experience was with Aurora slot cars in the 60s, I guess, as a little kid with the T-Jets. And then like everybody else, I stopped for probably 20 or 25 years. And then about maybe 20 years ago, I ran into a guy that was very much into HO slot cars still in Fremont, California. So I started to rekindle some interest in slot cars. And then I fooled around with, I've been fooling around with 132 slot cars mostly for the last 20 years or so. I like to scratch build 1/32 scale cars, and so that's my history pretty much with slot cars.
Very cool. Thanks for joining us. Just to let you know, I turned off your video because apparently your bandwidth is on the low side, and so your audio was having issues. So I turned your video off so that your audio was more continuous and clear to.
Okay. Okay.
But you should be, if you wanted to do a share screen later, that I think that's relatively low bandwidth. So if you wanted to do a show and tell with, sharing a picture or something like that, or turn your camera back on, that'd be fine. I think we're out of new people. John, did you see any other new people in the list? Okay, so we're good to go to move on to show and tell. I have a little bit of show and tell. Again, we're using the raise hand function. So if you want to show and or tell about something, please hit your raise hand button. Again, for the newbies on a PC, you click on reactions down at the bottom and then click raise hand. On a mobile device, tap your screen to get your buttons to pop up, tap more, then tap raise hand. Dennis, you got to it first. Go ahead and with your show and tell there.
Well, I've still got to unmute even though I raised my hand, right?
Yep.
Photos today. As you remember, last week I was showing off a chassis that, screen sharing is still disabled, Greg.
Hold on, gotcha. Go ahead.
Thank you. Let me try again. There we go. What's happened to my, let me try again. Somehow there's some, that's what the problem is. Got it. And now I should be able to get going. I apologize for all of this. There we go. All right, so I was building cars for a customer for Electric Dreams. Excuse me. And apart from the BMW that I showed last week, this is a Jensen Healey. The customer found this body somewhere. It may well be a Pato's body or something like that. It's a fairly rough little vacuum forming, but he wanted me to put a decent chassis underneath it, and so I've been playing with that this week. There's the chassis and the body. He actually gave me the original registration of the one that he had, so I actually made a couple of little license plates for this one. He also told me, and that I didn't realize that's so out of focus, but he also told me that the driver had to look like him, and so I had to mix the right skin tone. But it came out pretty well. Probably a nice little car to run. Then he also handed, sorry, John.
Oh, what scale was that, Dennis?
1/32 scale.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. Then he handed me this JK 1/32 scale Williams body. Said I want something underneath this. So that got an inline chassis. Pretty simple, but I'm sure it'll work well. These are both of those have Piranha 21,500 RPM motors, so I think they should go pretty well. Rubber tires, which is what he wanted. A magnet under this car, right here underneath the bracket, just between the motor and the gear. There was just enough space to put a magnet in there. The other two will get magnets when I can find the right magnet, but I haven't got them yet. And then you saw the BMW last week, but it's complete now, and that's the look underneath. The magnet will fit here just in front of them. So that's me for today.
All right, fantastic stuff. Does anybody have any questions for Dennis on his show and tell? All right, we'll move on to Jeremy. Go ahead, Jeremy, what you got?
Hey guys, this one is kind of boring. Let me pull it up here. So I went and designed, what I'm trying to do is make a piece of scenery terrain, like a video screen, but then it's also going to hold on to the race coordinator when I'm using it. So I took a 1/32 scale terrain and just kind of modified it to fit any old cell phone, because I've got like half a dozen cell phones lying around the kids don't use anymore. So I thought, what better way to put it into production and have it actually doing something. So that was it.
That's awesome, dude.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, Jeremy, you could make that into a live billboard as well.
Well, I thought about when there's no phone there, I'm just going to make a billboard, like golf racing or something into it. But yeah, I could also just make a screensaver and have it flash, different Coca-Cola, Golf, Ferrari, whatever. So.
But you can even have a video of having like 1/32 scale figures waving and stuff. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Or racing footage.
Or yeah, actually take camera footage from an actual race or something. But that's the plan. I'll have these a few around the track so people at different areas can kind of see what the scores are and what's going on.
You could be the only guy with a kiss cam on your track.
There you go.
Are you gonna?
I do not have any women racing with us, so that's going to get uncomfortable for a few of us.
Are you gonna share that model for the rest of the world?
Yeah, let me get that out and available. It's nothing, cool. But yeah, I'll share it.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Anybody get any questions for Jeremy's show and tell? Looks like we're good. Go ahead, John.
Okay, we're ready to share. So this is the ongoing saga of Greg's 935. So here, I'll just start from the beginning again. So grabbed a Revell of Germany kit, which is exactly the same kit as the Matchbox kit that Leo sent along with the Scalextrics. Then we started cutting. So took the rear end off the Scalextrics round 935. Then proceeded, tell me if I'm going too quickly. There's another shot. So a comparison of the built model with the Scalextrics model. And actually they're pretty darn close, which is nice to see. The materials are completely different, but that's okay. We're making it for a mold anyway. So, and of course, the decals that Leo sent as well. Now that we know that there's an Alps printer available, okay. So on the actual model, there are these vents that are present, but molded in and not opened up. So I thought the first step would be let's start scribing and opening up those vents before we assembled the car. So there we go, we open them up. And that's the way it'll be when we cast it. We'll have those open so you can see just like the real car. And in a comparison with the bumper of the Scalextrics and the bumper of the model kit, and it's actually really very, very close. As you can see, there's a sort of a bend here because of the different style of rear fender. So far, so good. Let's see. And here's another sort of view of how the lights actually line up. So this is actually looking so far, so good, quite promising. And then we started just taking fenders off. So I removed the rear fender of the model kit with the sort of C-pillar, I guess, for lack of a better description here, to sort of match it to these fenders. And of course, you can see that the fenders have been opened up, and then started assembling the car with the nose and the middle section and the fenders. And then, let's see if this fits. Son of a gun. How about that? Not bad.
It's almost like it was meant to be.
It's a little better than not bad.
Yeah.
But I thought that was the best way to graph it on because again, I may have to sort of scallop the lower part of this fender to get the glass in properly, but I thought we'd keep the proper profile from the model kit so it'll be as accurate as possible. Because as you can see from the model here, it is a bit large and these look a wee bit small. But if I have to sort of grind anything away, I'd rather grind away from the bottom of the fender than the top of the roof because there's very little space there. And there's a view from the back, and actually, if you take a look, I mean that tail is going to fit quite nicely, I think. I sort of like the cut and shut pieces that are left around the workshop. Isn't that cool?
Throw something together.
And there's another shot from the other side, but that's just to sort of show you what's done. And then from the top. So far, so good. I think we're going to be fairly close.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You're doing fantastic.
Yeah, that looks really good.
All right, so that's my show and tell done. Any questions, concerns, orders?
Right, get your pre-orders in. The other two people in the world who want that particular Porsche 935.
I do.
John, what do you do with the dental pick?
Oh, that's what I used to scribe the vents out. Scribe it first with this little dental tool, which if you ever want, I mean, anybody else see Marathon Man more than once? No? And then as you scribe and build more of a rut in the vent, then the number 11 blade does the rest of the work.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, and these, I forgot to mention, these are the undersills that came with the kit. And this portion actually has to be removed at some point because, of course, the other fender came out to here, and this one actually rounds in. So, I'll show you again here. There you go. So part of the underside is here. So I have to marry, that's why I took this picture. So there was a reason for that. I have to marry this undersill to the rest of the underbody. But that's secondary. Just want to make sure that this all lines up properly. Hopefully it won't need too much filler, which will be nice.
Yeah, and hopefully on the inside it's going to be pretty flat and not all. You're obviously going to make a double-sided mold, right?
Oh yeah, two-part mold for sure. Yeah. Because I also want to mold the interior, full interior with a driver, and yeah.
Okay, I'm
Roll
just
bar.
thinking of that because of the chassis. And I guess I need to ask Greg, do you want the motor behind the wheels?
Since it's probably only ever going to be doing some parade laps or some hot parade laps, you follow your muse.
Okay. Because I mean, a Porsche should really have the motor right in, or the engine right in the back, or the motor right in the back.
And you know, with to your point, Dennis, with that whale tail in the back, I think there'll be enough room.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just with that whale tail, I'm worried about the amount of weight that's going to be at the back and high up. But if Greg's only going to be parade lapping it, I guess it doesn't matter much.
Yeah, it's not going to be a competition car by any. There's not going to be a class this car would ever be in my area before I die, most likely. So
just as well, because nobody else would be able to keep up with it anyway, right?
That's true. Once one of your chassis is under it, that's for darn sure. So yeah, follow your muse, whatever you want. It doesn't.
All right.
Motor
Okay.
type doesn't matter.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I think I've got some ideas.
Yeah.
Well, we're certainly keeping in the spirit of your transformer, because we're transforming this.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Speaking
And
of
it's
which,
going to be blue and yellow, right?
no. This is the
No.
only blue and yellow car that's not going to be. This is the only non-blue and yellow car that I care about not being blue and yellow. But do you have a reference image handy, John, or do you want me to dig one up?
Oh, I don't have it handy. I'm sorry. Shoot. That's in another file folder. Darn. But I know you sent a whole bunch of pictures.
No problem. I'll dig one out. Frank, did you have a question, or you want to do a show and tell?
Actually, Brian Gipperich has had his hand up way before me.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Oh, let me stop the sharing. Sorry about that. There we go. Whoops. Hang on. Stop sharing. There we go. Sorry about that.
All right. Well,
here we go. Let me focus on. Stop moving around. All right. Now we say, Brian. Ooh, look at that.
so I took a little time last week and rebuilt my table. Got a little finishing work to do. I don't know, is that focusing okay?
Yeah, looks
I
great.
still got to mount my webcam, but I went ahead and put sides up on the tables. New trays for the driver stations. And covered the tables. I was debating whether to cover or paint, and I opted to cover.
Some nice indoor-outdoor carpeting there.
Yeah, they were actually 6 by 8 foot rugs that were $18 a piece.
That's not bad for that.
It was about the cheapest way to go. I like it. It was easy to work with, and it really makes the track quiet. It doesn't seem to be coughing up a lot of fiber, so at least at this point, I don't have anything wrapping around the axles. But
as long as it's a closed loop, so it's not just the ends of strands. If it's a closed loop, shouldn't be a problem at all. That's basically the kind of stuff that I have on my track.
yeah, I did have to alter the layout slightly because originally, I don't know if you guys remember, my tables were staggered by about 2 feet lengthwise because of where my furnace is here. So I ended up squaring it up. It just made the sides easier, and I lost a half a straight here, but somehow miraculously I ended up having to dig out 3 more half straights to complete the track. So it got shorter in one area and longer elsewhere, and on that center straight there. So,
Well, Brian, I love your car park. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
Thank you.
And it's nice having walls up. You can go ahead and drive to your heart's content and not worry about cars hitting the floor.
Those are actually 12-inch boards.
Yep. Nice.
And what I did is I bought them. They're 4-footers,
Mhm.
and I mean, so I've got seams, but I think it looks great. I got room under there. I can hang some curtains under there to hide under the bench, but gave me some room to bring out my buildings. I've had those forever. But that's all I have.
All right. Looks great, Brian. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else got anything they want to ask of Brian or previous sharers before we move to Frank?
Yeah, Brian, are you planning to put any scenery up, or are you keeping it sort of free form?
He had buildings.
Yeah, I've got three of the Scale Electrics buildings, the tower and 2 garages. But I move my track around too often to worry about a whole lot of things. I did like that little billboard cell phone deal
Yeah.
we saw earlier, and I've got some old cell phones around. I think that's awesome. I may put one of those up, but For the most part, probably no. It's what it is what it is.
All right. Again, thanks for sharing, Brian. Frank, it's your turn.
Well, after seeing John's making of your vehicle, and I don't know if I want to show this or not, but I don't know if it does resin vehicles or not, builds. But this is a Ambassador.
Oh, that's cool.
It's one of the ones that's like $10 on eBay. So you have to take out the windows, do the wheel wells, shave everything from underneath. As you can see, I haven't gotten one of the wind wings yet. But these are cast from a 3D mold. So when you get them, everything is real rough. And so I've smoothed that out, but I just started on it yesterday, and I just thought I'd show that because I don't think I've seen anybody else show these. And eventually I'll make a very simple chassis to go underneath it. It's not going to be a racer, and it's going to be black with Nash Ambassador decal on it.
So you're basically creating Team La Cosa Nostra.
If you say so. That's all I had. I just wanted to kind of show that in case other people are building these kind. I don't know, but I have to do an interior, and I've got windows that I'll cut and tape up inside there to cover all the windows eventually.
So you're saying that it was cast in a 3D printed mold, so it had like layer lines in it or something, or?
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and see, I haven't painted it yet, so I don't know if I've gotten all the layer lines out yet. But after the first coat of primer, I'll find out.
Now, if it had layer lines as a casting, it may be easier to take the layer lines out of a casting than an actual 3D print, no?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a smart way to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm just surprised that the person who's producing these didn't go ahead and sand up one model and recast it. He's basically making all of his customers sand out the imperfections of the 3D print.
And then they wouldn't be $10 anymore.
That's true. It would not be $10. No, good point. Fair point. Absolutely. Thank you for that. All right, I've got a show and tell. If anybody else out there has a show and tell, go ahead and raise your hand, but I'll go ahead and do mine real quick. So you should be seeing a blue and yellow contraption stuck to my tire razor. This is a modification of the machine that OxoCube, Kev, shared on Slot Forum. He's posted it on Thingiverse. His tire machine is of similar functionality and form, but it's not a tire razor, so his design didn't fit on my machine. So I've been making modifications so that it fits on my machine and making small improvements here and there. But essentially, as you can see, the whole purpose of it is to move the sanding plate back and forth automatically so that I'm not having to sit there, shifting it side to side by hand the whole time. This is prototype number 2. It functions, but it has issues. What should be loading here is a video showing it function. What happens is because this whole mechanism, the motor isn't screwed in place yet. I've got screws on order for that. But because the whole mechanism is up above the sanding plate, the plane of the sanding plate, or the center of gravity of the sanding plate, the action of that rotating mechanism causes a levering action on that connection, and sometimes the plate will tilt very slightly up one way or the other. In practice, what that means is sometimes when the plate is tilted up a little bit, it'll actually wedge itself between the tire and the sand, and it wedges up against the tire and jams. So prototype number 3 will be using some modifications to lower that connection point down as low as I possibly can so that levering action is eliminated or at least mitigated. But that'll be for a future show and tell. Anybody got questions on this contraption before I move over to my other show and tell?
Yes, Greg.
Go ahead, Petrucci.
Are you selling the files for that, or?
No, this is going to be shared freely. OxoCube shared his files freely on Thingiverse. And this being essentially a remix, even though it's considerably modified from his, I'll be sharing it for free as a remix as well.
Okay, I'll wait till you modify it, then
I'll
have a go myself.
You got a tire razor just like that from SCR, John?
Yeah, I've got 2 tire razors.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so the trickiest part so far has been the motor is actually quite easy to source. It's a gear motor, 12-volt gear motor, like 30 RPM. It's a very slowly revolving motor at the shaft. Slowly. The trickiest part is getting the screws. They are M1.6 screws. So to buy the right size from Amazon, I had to get a pack of 200. I might actually like sell kits or something, but yeah, the files will be freely available. You can download it and print it yourself on your own printer.
Okay.
No problem.
I think I've got a couple of those motors somewhere.
Hopefully they're the right size. I happened to have that motor prior to him sharing his files, and it happened to be, I think mine is a higher RPM at the shaft than his, but it works, so I'm sticking with it. But it's not hard to source. There's a specific motor code, I guess, or the string of numbers and letters that identify this particular style of motor format, which I'll try to make it as easy as possible for people to source the motors and the screws. The rest of these screws are just M3 socket head cap screws.
Is that the motor there, little motor like that?
Hold on, let me stop sharing so I can see you. Let me spotlight that. That looks identical, yeah. So I had to measure to be sure that it was identical, but yeah, that looks identical. So what I would do is go ahead and, when the files are ready, go ahead and print them out and see if it fits. If it fits, then you're good. Otherwise, you got to buy another motor or modify the modify the file. But yeah, you should be good to go. Before I call on anybody, did you guys have questions about this? Jim, Frank?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll ask mine. You have drywall sandpaper down on your tire razor. Do you use that for rubber tires?
I use that for everything, pretty much. I just want the absolute roughest cut, because I don't go for super high polish using the tire razor. I just want to get it round and quick.
So what do you use to polish, or do you polish?
I don't do any additional sanding beyond that. Sometimes, depending on the tire, I might go ahead and put. I also have a wheel. What do you call it? Wheel buddy tires. Anyways, there's a separate sanding plate with a different thing at the end.
Right.
So I got one of those that has his original sanding paper on it. Sometimes I'll use that if the tire looks rough, but the side-to-side motion basically, gets rid of any grooves that would be caused by a particular grit of the sanding mesh. So I've never been displeased by the results from the sanding mesh. So
I've only used that kind of sandpaper, the drywall, for, believe it or not, I use it on silicones.
That would make sense, because you need to cut silicone, don't you?
Yeah, and it does work. It takes forever, but.
All right. So do you have any other questions on that, Frank? Okay. And Jim, did you have a question on my machine, or Mike, did you have a question on my machine?
No.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and do my other share, which is
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Neil, and then I'll get Wayne.
What do you use to glue your sandpaper down to your tire razor? I have a tire razor, but I haven't changed the sandpaper yet, and I was just curious.
You can buy self-adhesive sandpaper. I think that's what John uses when he manufactures the plates.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, if you go to I forget where I saw it. I'd swear I saw it at like Fred Meyer or something like that, in their sandpapers, like a pack of some self-adhesive sandpaper. But I'm sure you can get them on Amazon or whatever. But to do this sanding screen, I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time. I'm actually having to replace it because they've worn in the center where the tire hits too much. So I need to replace them.
I use two-sided carpet tape.
That was going to be one of my ideas. The funny thing is, I started the process of replacing these by trying to peel off the screen, and I ended up peeling off the mesh, leaving a bunch of sanding, material, the grit behind, stuck to the whatever adhesive I had used. So I continued using the plate without the mesh in there, and actually worked pretty good. But I think I'll probably either use two-sided tape or maybe a rubber cement will probably work.
I like double-sided Scotch tape because it's very, very thin, and then you don't got to worry about the weird thicknesses.
Yeah, I think I probably used like a rubber cement on this because I didn't think the Scotch tape would hold it, because it's such a low grit. Like, it's just not going to have enough purchase on the actual sanding screen to want to stick. So I think I just went with a contact cement. But I'll find out when I get the replacement of that underway. Wayne, you had a question too?
It was more an advisory comment. Sorry about the noise. The horizontal link arm you've got there that actuates that screw, that's correct. You might benefit there by replacing that with what I know as a turnbuckle, which has got a pair of rose joints on the end. It's a 3mm threaded rod of some length of your own choice, and you will find a spherical ball inside a plastic molding that screws on both ends of the 3mm rod. It will take care of any, if that arm were to twist, it would put a lateral force into the screw.
Yeah.
And if you replace with rose joints, you would eradicate all the potential for that to happen.
Okay, so just to show that I'm ahead of you, this is actually what I just shared was version 2 of my modifications. You should be seeing my CAD software now. Version 1 was using a ball and socket joint. And I went away from this because I realized that I was adding way too much length in the total. Let's see, where's my other socket here? No. Anyways, here is ball joint. So basically, I had a 2-part ball and socket joint. So this part was glued to the end of the sanding plate, and then this was what was being actuated. So it's going to be kind of a combination of version 1 and 2. I'm going to have a ball and socket joint similar to this, one half being actuated by the arm as low as I can possibly make it, and then the other half being connected to the sanding plate. I think and hope that will do the trick. But we shall see. Was that basically what you're suggesting?
No, well, basically, but it adds all that extra work and dimensions that you spoke of. I'll try and find a picture of what I actually mean, and maybe when you see it, it'll make good sense.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Ideas are welcome. Absolutely. So on to my other share, which is another set of pictures. Should be here. There we go. So continuation of the blue and yellow Marlboro. This is mostly done. Clear coat and interior and whatnot still waiting. But, livery accuracy aside, because I don't care, I think this is fantastic, and I'm super, super stoked. Iceman, do these look like your decals? Or would you recognize them?
No, I don't think they are.
Well, they're great decals.
Oh, yes.
They were from an old stock that Pat's got, a big binder just full of decals of all kinds, and you save every decal you don't use from every car you make, so you always got something like this hanging around. But yeah, I'm it looks, again, like I said last week, it looks even better in person. I'm just over the moon for that and look forward to racing it. And this time I'm gonna do absolutely everything within the rules to get that car smoking fast. And sometimes I wonder if it's magic, because my NSR Classic GT40 Mark IV that I've been racing in our current series, which I've talked about a few times already, last night at Russ's track, it was smoking everybody else. They were like, did you change the motor to the new 23K or whatever their new motors they're using? I'm like, nope, this is the same motor that's been in it for the last, couple years. Something happened. It was firing all cylinders. I was pulling a foot on these guys down the straightaways. Like, I have no idea. It's like maybe a bit of schmutz from the comms came off or something. I have no idea, but it was just smoking. And the funniest part was when we race at Russ's track, he likes to use the fuel function. So we have to park under the light bridge to refuel the tank. I'm usually on point with that, and I'm usually on the podium simply because I don't miss any fuel stops, and I race in such a way that I get the most possible laps, even though I'm not the fastest, because you use less fuel when you're not going as fast. But my car was going so fast, I was like, heck yeah! I was just driving the snot out of that car, and I missed pits for 2 of my heats early on. Which cost, and when you're out of fuel, you're out of the race. You're done. You're just dead on the track. So the first time I missed the pits on my first pit stop, I completely forgot about the pits. 6 laps in a 25 lap race. I got 6 laps on that race. And then later on, did it again, on my second or whatever pit. It's like, okay, come on. My car was driving so great, I forgot to pit. Anywho,
so in a 25 lap race, you ran out of fuel in 6 laps.
Correct. Yeah, his consumption pretty high. So we had to. You couldn't finish the race without pitting 3 times.
Oh, okay.
So basically, if I drove conservatively, I would absolutely have to pit on the 7th lap. So 6 laps, and then I would have to stop. And then if I drove conservatively again, I could get, stop at 14 and then 21. But no matter how you drive, you're going to pit at least 3 times.
And what kind of lap time per lap?
I think we were in the 6s, the really low 6s.
Okay, so that's a 2.5 minute race. And you have three pit stops in 2.5 minutes?
3.5 minutes. So
less than that. I mean, 6 seconds is 10 laps per minute.
So the actual driving was probably about 2.5 minutes. The pit stopping takes extraordinarily long because you've got the system has to realize that you're not just going under the light bridge, but stopped under the light bridge. And then when it has safely determined that you are actually stopped to pit, then it fills up.
Okay.
You could twiddle your thumbs while you watch that fuel gauge go up. And it would not surprise me at all if the 3 pit stops accounted for an entire minute of the race time.
Okay.
So yeah, a minute out of a 3.5 minute race is sitting under the light bridge, hoping to God that you're not sitting there for no reason because you happen to be just behind or just in front of, or the lights showing through a hole in the bottom of your car. Speaking of which, I mentioned previously when at this particular track weeks ago, one of the guys, because we were asked to put tape on our pod to cover the holes to make sure that we didn't have light going through our car. One of the guys used an extra long piece of tape to basically tape the pod as suspension dampening. I did that this time, waiting for somebody to notice that I had done that. And I went through like 3 heats and my car was performing even better. I'm like, okay, well, nobody's noticed, so I'll go pull that off because I'm not that kind of guy. And if my car was performing so much better because of that, then I'll feel even worse about it. Fortunately, I pulled the tape off, and I did lose some performance by pulling the tape off, but it was still super hot. So that wasn't the only thing that got. I did get 3rd place in spite of my 2 missed pit stops because lots of people miss pit stops, which is the primary reason I usually win those races. But in spite of my pit stop misses, my car was so hot. I won a few heats because I got 25, they got 24 or whatever. I was ahead of them or whatever. Anyways, good times, hanging with the guys, playing with slot cars. Any other questions before we move on to Mike? All right, hearing none. Mike, take it away. You're still muted. There
Thanks. You go. Got the new sideways Ford GT. It's really runs nice without magnets.
Nice.
So that's the one. And then I've been lusting after this for a long time. And since my wife is retiring in March, I need to spend now.
Spend her money now.
So, yeah, spend money now before the income goes away. So
nice.
That's the other one.
That's the Pantera, right?
No, that is a Ferrari 512 BB.
I'm not a car guy.
Yeah.
Race a sideways version, right?
Yeah, that's the sideways version. Both of these are sideways. And I like the new, the new sideways pod.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You can see it there. Now it does have magnets in it now, but it did win its first race. So
I see you don't have the wing on the back.
I was gonna say, where's the wing?
Yeah.
Magnet racing.
Well, part of it, yes, but the other part is the wings are pretty fragile on this one, and I wanted to keep it in one piece for a little while.
Have you, and I know Wayne's probably sitting waiting to ask the same question. Have you run the car with and without the wing?
No, I have not yet.
I'm sure Wayne would be happy to find out. Right.
What kind of downforce is on that wing?
Not fast enough on my track, I think.
Well, it's not only the speed; it's the weight of the wing and
right.
And the little bit of air deflection that you get. Let's not go down the rabbit hole of slot car aerodynamics, but the weight of the wing.
Yeah,
and it makes the center of gravity much higher. I've noticed that before. If with the wings on the cars, that the center of gravity is slightly raised, it's enough to really muck up the handling if you're not careful.
Or improve it. One of the guys in our race is racing the P68 that has the big wing above the driver, and his car is hooked up. I mean, he's a good tuner and driver to begin with, but you know, you'd think that such weight way up high. I mean, you've seen that.
Yeah.
It's way up there, and his car is hooked up. If anything, the weight up high is helping. It's certainly not hurting. What's that?
That's a work in progress of a P68.
Looks nice.
Yeah, got to get the decals on it and make it run. But not painted by me. My first attempt at it was a disaster. So I had a friend do it, and it's much better now.
I feel that.
Greg, the guy who races the P68, is it the racer version or is it an NSR that he put his own wing on?
Oh, no, it's NSR. I thought they made one with the wing.
Yeah, they did.
Did they? Okay. Sorry. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we don't do that kind of modification. One of these days they might do an open class, but definitely not anytime soon. Or they haven't in their history that I'm aware of. What else? What you got now, Mike?
This is the Pantera that Carrera just brought out.
There we go.
Yeah, it's the wheels are outrageously outsized. The rear ones especially. The front ones aren't terrible, but the rear ones are awful, and those are going to get changed.
Didn't the Pantera
I'll do my
wheels though?
Pardon me?
Didn't the Pantera have big rear wheels, like a Lamborghini kind of?
Well, it did have large wheels, but it didn't have. These are like 22-inch wheels. If you would, make it to scale, they're just really outsized for the size of the car.
Yeah, they're too tall. They're too tall.
Yeah. Correct. The diameter is too large, or pardon me, the radius is too large. So that's all I have.
All right, thanks, Mike. And Henry, you're next, sir. You need to unmute. There you go.
For the part of a tire truing, I go a little bit more than only the tire truer, because I use the nail polish, and you have them in 4 sides, and from 4 different grids. I make the car, the rubber, really, really smooth, because I know one thing: I can have a bad car, but I have bad tires, then I never win a race. And then at the end, I take to round the corners a little bit smoother, because if I don't have that on wooden tracks, I get stuck in the corners and it will flip. So yeah, I definitely do much more than only a tire truing. And then I go to the, how do you call it, wash machine, turpentine?
Oh, nap.
Yeah, and then with a cloth, and then I make them really smooth. So it can take 1 hour, 1.5 hours before I got perfect tires.
Yeah, I definitely round, make sure there's no hard edges on the inside or the outside of the tires. And depending on the tire compound, like NSR or slotted N22s or N18s, I'll do the lighter fluid.
Lighter fluid. Yeah.
Get that done. But what I've found is that if I go through the trouble of making the tire super smooth, it just gets rough when I race. The track itself does damage to the tires. So
yeah, it does the rest.
I found that as long as the tire is true and round and smooth, it doesn't have grooves or anything in it, and the edges are round, then it's fine. I don't personally feel the need to continue making it smoother and smoother and smoother. But like I said before, that drywall sanding screen, it's super rough, yeah. But the result on the tire, it doesn't look rough, right? There's no lines in it, right? Because you're not just grinding it straight down. The plate is moving the whole time, so the end result is pretty darn smooth and as smooth as I need it to be.
Yeah.
I won't ever tell anybody not to do that. If you want to do it, I've seen some beautiful tires before they hit the track.
That's true. Yeah.
What you got, Frank? You got your mute on, that's for sure.
There it is.
Here we go.
Somebody was asking about the P68 with the wing.
Yeah, that was me. I'm sorry. I realized later that is correct.
Yeah, interesting
Thank you.
car.
Yeah.
It's a real thing, Dennis. Come on, don't you know all the time?
I knew that there was one. I just didn't remember that NSR had made one. The problem now is, of course, I already have 2 NSR P68s, and now I have this discipline issue when I get to Electric Dreams tomorrow.
I mean, don't we all?
You need one.
Your problem is not your problem is access, right? Everybody has the same problem. You're just there more than we go to hobby stores.
Do you remember the BMW V12 LMP, the car, the art car, where they put all those sayings across they put all the quotes and things on the car, and the main one right down the middle of the car says, "Protect me from what I want." That's me.
Yeah, that's why, whenever I'm talking to somebody who's new or getting back into the hobby and they're like, "Oh, these cars are so awesome," I'm like, it's like The Blind Side. If you don't absolutely love it in the store, it's just gonna be shelf, right?
Listen to me now and listen carefully, because you are going to experience this. Yep.
Mm-hmm. But then I say, have fun. That's what you want to do. Have fun. Does anybody else have any show and tell they want to show and or share? Or if you just want to ask a question or talk about something, go ahead, Wayne.
Well, I found the picture of the thing I was going to show you, and I'm trying to share screen on my phone.
That I can't.
It's a new experience.
You might be breaking.
Oh. Now then. It's at the bottom, zoom. There you go. And if I just press this, I might be able to do it. Sorry about the delay, folks. This is the first go at this. And you should be seeing my screen. Is that correct?
You see your home screen, yep. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, okay. So there's an example of the rose joints that I mentioned for your tire truer earlier.
Okay.
As you can see, they are mounted vertically by a 3mm thread down through the ball. And there's also the option to, well, you build the turnbuckle with the 3mm thread into the plastic ends. And of course, you can screw those on and off to change the length. And those are tiny. You can judge by the size of an M3 screw that would go down that ball that will save you a lot of space, and it will give you length adjustability. Because I did notice that your slide was going beyond one of the tires.
Yeah, I mean,
I can adjust the video.
I can adjust the throw of the slider quite easily. What I'm wondering is, do you have a picture of that rose joint assembled or in some application? Because I think I understand what it's doing, but
I will find one, and I know I'm still sharing my screen, but I can't get back to Zoom now to stop it.
All right, I'll stop it. I'll stop it.
Thank you.
Wayne, that looks like an RC part. Is that right?
Yes, it is. It's an RC car part.
So where does
them for steering linkages, and they use them for upper suspension arms, and in some cases lower suspension arms too.
So you have two of these things, and they're linked at where there's the hole, and they have the thing going through them.
I'll get another picture. It's you would vertically screw two of those silver parts, the balls, and over the top of that you would pop the plastic rose joints, and then in between you would link them with a 3mm threaded rod of a length of your choice.
Okay, yeah, I think I
haven't got a pointer on the screen. Otherwise, I would have had a pointer. I would have showed you where to put where things go, but I couldn't do that.
No.
So yeah, that I think is probably your best solution, and you can put that low down inside your 3D printer, 3D printed part. You'd be able to get the push straight on the end. Oh, Dennis has got turnbuckles. There you go. They're the kind that haven't got a foot. And by a foot, I meant the little piece at the bottom and the piece above.
Sure. So two ball joints is not better than one ball joint. I think I'll continue with my current situation. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll add another ball joint, turning it into a turnbuckle. But I think one ball joint will do the trick, but we shall see. Thank you for that idea. And it is tucked into my pocket for future modifications as needed.
Yeah, if you look carefully, you will find turnbuckles that have a left-hand thread on one side and a right-hand thread on the other side, so that you can adjust them very easily. It's a standard radio control car part, pretty much.
Yeah, I'll just 3D print them. I don't need to buy them, but great idea. Thank you very much for that, gentlemen, and for the help on understanding it. Jim Rose, you had your hand up. Go ahead, Jim.
I just wanted to show you some of the cars from the race we had last week, which is our first NorCal Challenge.
Sure.
And we ran, slotted Group C. I just want to mention on this car, this is a newer car, the chassis. I'm having trouble getting left and right here on my screen.
Yeah.
And I put this body on it, and it didn't fit. The body holes actually don't line up from the older chassis to the newer chassis. So I had to modify that quite a bit because I wanted to run the Golf livery on the newer Gunston chassis. So it took a little work to put that together. The second car, which is our Can-Am car, basic Thunder slot, hard chassis, 25K motor, blazing fast.
Yeah, Thunder slot.
The last car, real quick, is I'm not a modeler. I'm a racer, and nothing against modelers. We all have our things we like to do. But I did do one car in a livery that is yet to be available. So this is an NSR F1 that we race. We race these stock, just with blueprinting and fiddling with them. But I did do the camel livery on it because I've been a Senna fan for a long time.
Oh, Jim, you did a great job.
Well, thank you. It's easy when all you have to do is spray one color and put some decals on it. So that's the extent of my modeling. But I did notice that NSR is coming out with this, but in the pictures, the colors don't look right. It looks like a yellow car, where this is actually, to me, a camel yellow. So I'm pretty happy with this car. And fortunately, all three cars in the race.
Decals?
That's the extent of my modeling.
Dennis was asking what kind of decals those are.
Those are IndyCals, and they fit pretty well. I'm very, very happy with the IndyCals. They're not specifically made for that car, but they work fine. So that's it for me.
All right, thanks for sharing, Jim. Mr. Bowden, looks like you're on my screen next. Go ahead.
You hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, right. I've got a question. I'm building this track. Obviously, I've got a lot to get through on the show and tell. We'll do that another time because I literally yeah, but I've been up since 5 this morning. It's a long day, and I've been into work 10 minutes when I flicked on the screen, so a bit cold into this. But anyway, my question is, what paint do I use with rubber tires? I mean, I can give you the make and the brand that I use, but does anybody have suggestions? Because I haven't been able to watch all your episodes so far to catch up on everything that's already been covered. So I think, well, we'll just ask a question now, because there's going to be other people coming on here with the same answer who haven't got time to look through 70 episodes.
You use the most inexpensive latex-based paint you can get.
Yep. Bottom shelf emulsion. Look at the, if you go to one of the big box stores, look at their improperly tinted paints to see if there's a nice gray shade that you'll like. You don't need more than a pint for most tracks. You certainly don't need a gallon for most tracks. A pint will usually do the trick. But yeah, the absolute cheapest latex emulsion interior house paint, preferably matte or satin, but not gloss generally. But gloss will probably work okay depending on your tire type. But matte has that kind of a rough texture to it. So lots of tires hook up on matte. The cheaper the paint means less additives for fast drying or less coats or whatever, which means more rubber content in the paint, which means better grip, and save money. Don't need a lot of it.
That's the thing. I mean, Greg, this track's going to be 130 foot long, give or take a foot. So I think it's going to take more than a pint.
Yeah, so get a gallon. Always have extra, for when you have to do patchworks or build a second track. Nothing wrong with that. It lasts.
Sorry to ask this question. Obviously, I've looked around the forums. I've done the searches for paint, grip, and everything else. What actually is the problem with gloss? Because there's a lot. I think was it Steve Ogilvy? Because I went on obviously some of the other forums and that, and he recommended gloss. But as you say, everyone has got a different. Like I say, he's probably running different tires or something. Because I don't know.
If you're going to run just rubber, then gloss paint is a good is an alternative that will work. Remembering that you would probably need to keep it quite clean, and then once you start riding on it, it will rubber in and it'll get better and better. If you're running other things such as urethane tires, then the gloss may be not so good. But if you're going to run pure rubber, and especially if you're going to run rubber from NSR or slotted or sideways, the guys who make the nice sticky rubber, and then the gloss paint will work.
I think gloss might be a little bit more statically attractive, so you might have more of a dust problem with gloss, but dust is dust.
One question about the gloss. I just thought to myself, moisture. Would moisture affect it? Not that it's going to get, like steamed up in the shed or anything, unless of course someone's really angry and lost the race or something. But again, like I say, ask these questions, get answers. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll go back to mute. Thank you very much. Unless anyone else has got any other really good advice for me for a minute, because I'm watching and learning.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing, Graham, that same philosophy will work not only on a routed track, but also on a plastic track as well. Like we painted our Carrera track and it transformed it.
Yeah.
And there is one other option, but there's always an expensive option. And so the expensive option here is a paint that's called UMA, which is a urethane modified acrylic. The problem is that stuff's like $40 a gallon. And I don't know that it's really worth it for most guys to do that. You have to have it tinted. It only comes in white. You can buy it in quarts and gallons, but you have to tint it. And it's very good. It gives good traction, and it's very tolerant of using different types of tires, one after the other. You can run silicons and then rubber straight afterwards, or the other way around. It's not any better than any other paint when it comes to running urethanes and then either silicons or or rubber, but it's a good possibility. It's a good alternative if you want to spend the money.
I wanted to address the moisture concern, and all latex paints are going to be latex, right? So they are inherently moisture resistant. Don't soak them. But since you're building a shed, the track's going to be out in the shed. It's not going to be climate controlled and whatnot. You'll want to paint in the slots, on the ends, underneath. You basically want to completely coat each piece with latex on all sides and every nook and cranny, especially because you never know when a leak will happen, and you want as much protection as possible just in case.
So you may have to buy 2 gallons, Graham.
I was going to say maybe an extra coat on top. I've seen some nice routed tracks that got ruined by a leak that they weren't aware of until it had been basically sitting on the track for a long time. And it's if even any paint that has water sitting on it for a long enough time is gonna let the water through. So but yeah, I don't think it's going to be a difference between matte, satin, or gloss. It's just going to be how much paint is on the surface as far as water protection. So yeah, do all sides and you should be good.
When you see this shed, you'll realize it's not just an ordinary shed.
Yeah, no, I know. You're making another house back there.
Yeah. That's what my neighbors thought. I had to explain to them I wasn't building another house.
Yeah.
So basically, Graham, you're building a man cave shed.
Yeah, this
in quotation shed. Yeah.
You'll all get to see it when I've got time, and obviously the time's appropriate.
It's his he shed. But it's going to be fully insulated, is what you're saying, and with proper windows and doors and stuff.
Which it is, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Hey, I'm not thinking it's going to be a leaky old aluminum siding thing. No,
it's not. It's not. I'll spend a lot of money on it. Put it that way.
Well, hopefully the mill rate on your property tax doesn't go up.
Probably will. All right, Petrucci, you're next.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Going back to your tire raiser, on YouTube, you go tire razor,
Tire razor.
tire truers on YouTube. There's a guy that's already set up his tire truer with that setup with the ball joints and
yeah. I've seen him. He hasn't shared his design, so
you make it yourself, don't you? It's not 3D. It's
sure, but he hasn't provided a bill of materials and measurements and things like that. So
I noticed that. I've been trying to figure it out myself.
So to replicate his design, you're basically designing it from scratch.
Yeah.
I was gonna design one from scratch, but then Kev beat me to it with his, so I'm just copying Kev. I'm happy to copy Kev. If I can just do some quick CAD modifications and print it, I'm a happy camper. But yeah, if you do a video on tire razor, or if you search YouTube for tire razor, there's a variety of videos.
I know, I've been going through it myself. I've been trying to figure it out myself, and I've got the first part, the motors. That's as far as I got so far, but
all right,
I've got all the other parts because I do RC racing. Just that I've got to find them. There is some. I packed them away somewhere.
All right. Well, good luck to building that, or wait a few extra days, and I'll be publishing my.
No, I'm looking forward to your thing.
All right. Thanks for that, Petrucci.
Okay.
Michael, you're next. What you got?
Oh, I was going to ask about paint for the Scalextric track. Increase the adhesion of my track. Has anybody done it?
Same answer.
What's the adherence of what Dennis was talking about, the ULA?
I haven't tried that. I've tried cheap latex interior matte house paint, and it works fantastically. I have no reason to pay 5 or 6 times the amount for something else.
On your track?
The UMA is actually designed as a primer for hard to paint surfaces. So its adherence to plastic track, like particularly Carrera track, is very, very good.
And where do you get it?
You have to go to the last time I bought it on Amazon. But from the more specialist paint stores like Dunn Edwards or somebody like that, you won't get it at Lowe's or at the home improvement stores. You have to go to the specialist manufacturers. But like I said, I bought the last time I bought it on Amazon. It's a Rust-Oleum product nowadays, but it was originally made by a company called XIM, and it's called UMA.
Garth, you had some input on that?
Yeah. What he's describing is basically a paint that is generally used for kitchen cabinet refinishing. Okay.
Oh.
And there's a Benjamin Moore product. Okay. They have a different company name for it. Okay. That is readily available at any Benjamin Moore store. It's really kind of pricey. Okay. But not only does it stick very well, but it's very, very easy to clean, and it's rock solid. It's like, it's like painting. I mean, it's like, it's tough, so.
If you've got the budget for it, I mean, it sounds like great stuff, but like I said, cheap old bottom shelf latex works fine on Sport Track and Carrera Track. So, might be worth it.
Garth, is that like a melamine kind of finish, or?
It's just what Dennis said. It's urethane modified acrylic. Okay. And basically it's two kinds of paint technologies glued into one. I happen to know somebody that has a Benjamin Moore store, so I know all about this. And we did this in our kitchen. We repainted our cabinets with it. And it's just two paint technologies glued together kind of type thing is what it is. Okay. So it's, and it, like I said, there's where the expense comes in. Okay. So, but they market it generally for cabinet refinishing. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right, and Wayne, you are next on my screen.
Unmute myself. Yeah, I wanted to, well, first of all, welcome Jim Rose to the chat, because I wanted to say thank you very much for the content that he puts on the NorCal Slot Car Scene YouTube channel. I enjoy that format, brief videos that get straight to the point. I appreciate that very much. But there was one particular one that he did a month or maybe more back now that I was interested to discuss further and ask the whole group if they had any experience with this thing. And what he did was he took a slotted motor pod, a complete rear end, attached it to a regular door hinge, screwed it down to a slab of wood, and constructed an axle holder using a brass tube sat above a piece of plastic box section, it looked like. And basically he had two axles running parallel to one another. And on those two axles, he attached grub screw type slot car wheels with tires on. And he was running tires against tires just for, he said, I think about 6 hours in some stints. And I wanted to know, does he swear by doing that? And is a tire running machine something that he recommends that we all go away and make?
I assume that was for some kind of oil or treatment application. Is he still here? I think he's gone. Yeah, he's not on anymore. But I've seen that kind of contraption made for oiling. To put a drop of oil and let the tires squish the oil between them and let that run for quite a while. In fact, Kev OxoCube, who designed the tire machine that I'm copying, did one of those as well with 3D printed parts and stuff. That's the only reason I can think of doing that. Anybody else? That's I guess maybe we'll have to ask Jim when he comes back on next time.
I guess no one else has got a machine to do that with then, no?
Looks like Alan's holding something up. What you got, Alan?
So SV Works do one, don't they? Which is maybe what Alan's looking at.
This is the 3D printed thing Mark Long did, and it's just quite simple. It's got a screw. You just chop the bottom off a moped. I used a Sidewinder. These are just plastic wheels. These are not what I'd use. But, you know, to roll tires, you know, I would use this. What I'd say, Wayne, actually, first off, before we start along this route, did you pick up the thread I posted on Slot Forum for you on the different tires, slotted N22, F22, NSR Reds, that kind of thing?
No, I didn't.
Okay, it's in the invitation thread on Slot Forum for this chat. So have a look there, because there's a thread called Slotted Tire Past and Present, because I agonized with this sort of stuff when I started racing 5 years ago. Right, rolling tires. I did this a lot when I started, and I do this a lot when I go to wood tracks. But the truth is, modern tires are just really so much better. The new NSR Reds, the sideways tires, the black Reds, these kind of tires just don't seem to need, you know, oil and rollering.
Okay, so that is the purpose of oiling the tires?
Well, the purpose of oiling the tires is to break down the surface of the tire.
I mean,
and, you do that. And
that machine is designed for that purpose, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, put it on. I think the thing is that I talked to OxoCube because he was building something. I said, you know, try and build something that slows the tires down. Otherwise, you're going to get tire oil everywhere. And this one does tend to spit. I just put a cup over it and just let it spit. But it's not ideal. So yeah, I have this and I do use it sometimes. But if I raced at wood tracks more often, using those older NSR compounds, supers and ultras, I would get a better thing than this. But you know, it's not bad. It does what I need. But I really don't do that anymore because the newer tires just don't seem to respond to oiling the way that the older tires used to. And I'm not really sure why that is, but the more modern compounds don't seem to need oil rollering anymore.
You mentioned wood tracks
You guys
specifically
still
there, Alan. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? You mentioned wood tracks specifically
Yes,
there, Alan. I do race at a wood track on a regular basis, so it might be beneficial for me to try.
I don't ever oil tires to go on plastic tracks. Just don't need to. Some plastic tracks forbid it because if you've got oil tires and other people are using urethanes, that completely ruins their grip. So there tends to be two schools of thought. One is the oiled rubber, and the other is the completely dry urethane, where even wet lubricants on the contrates are forbidden. You know, so it's completely two different ways to go. But I don't oil tires to go on plastic tracks, but I do have some tires that I oil for wood tracks. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you. I know a bloke has got a little device for this, for doing that, and I might actually, rather than make one, I know he doesn't use it. I might ask him if I can borrow it for a while, see if it benefits me. I don't think it benefited him, and he's primarily plastic too.
Okay, well, the big thing about oiling tires is it's primarily done for air rims. And what you're looking to do is to blister the surface of the tire. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. But you're trying to blister the surface of the tire, and that creates a kind of
NSR.
Yeah, the NSR type thing. Oh, that's the NSR Truer and Roller. Those
Correct.
are not available anymore, I don't think. But when they were available, they were just a shocking amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I found one used somewhere, so that's the only reason I have one.
Yeah, but Wayne, there is a thread called Beginner's Guide to Oiling Tires, I think, on Slot Forum, and it's one of those threads that went on for 30 pages, and everybody threw their values, their opinions in there. But the real crux of what you're trying to do with oil, just don't buy NSR oil or anything. 3-in-1 is fine. What you're trying to do there is break down the surface of the tire, and you're trying to create a blistering effect. And you'll notice that if you do it right, you get a ridge in the middle of the tire so that the tire expands as it goes down the straights. And so it's actually changing the gearing, the effective length of the gearing on your car as the tire gets slightly bigger on the straights and then comes down on the corners. It's very involved, and I've not really dug that deeply into it because I've not been going to race meetings where that's mandatory to be competitive.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've never yet used an air wheel that's not got foam inside it.
They do work, but again, oiling is, oiling part of the trick there. And also, when you're using air rims, it's really, really critical that you get the tire to fit the air rim. So, for example, one of the tires I used to use was the slotted E1. If you tried to put that on an NSR air rim, it created a divot because the tire was too tight.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're using air rims, it's really important that you get the tire to fit properly, and even more important that you adjust your truing speed so that you're not exploding the tire out as you're truing it, because effectively the tire grows and then shrinks depending on the RPM of the tire. It's like I said, it's very involved, and I haven't bottomed that whole thing out, so I'm not somebody to advise. But again, Slot Forum, there's a good thread there, but take you a day to get through it, I think.
Ah, nice one. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for answering that question. I'm guessing Petrucci wants to show off a tool that is somewhat appropriate for this. What you got there, Petrucci? Move it over a little bit. There you go. Oh, that's your oiling machine?
Yep.
From SRP?
SRP, that's correct.
How much did that cost you?
I can't remember.
Oh,
he'll have the receipt lying
I
around.
bought it quite a while ago.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting. I've ordered some speed controllers so I can slow the speed down when I do the tyres. I'm still
You
waiting
need
for
an
it to come.
expensive variable voltage power supply, don't you, to be able to run at about 4 volts, 5 volts.
Train transformer.
Train transformer. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, that's what I use for my tire raiser. Actually, it's for O-scale trains, so it's got some amps behind it. But if you're just doing, an oiling machine, then you could probably find one for free at some.
But it's looking like nearly everyone's got one, and even John showed one just there.
Yeah.
John, have you got comments to add? Do you make regular use of that?
Which John?
John Underwood.
Oh well, he's there he goes.
Oh, there we go. I have got one. I did screen share. I don't know if anyone saw it.
Yeah, I did see it, John. That's why I mentioned it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's that is one of Stephen Verst's SV Works.
Yeah.
That's about obviously you can get it off Shapeways. I think he's got his own website, which might be cheaper because obviously Shapeways the postage is ridiculous in the UK. It's about €20, 20 quid. So I've used it a few times. What I would say about oiling tyres, obviously I race at Rockingham and obviously I do Manchester, Wolves, all the main wood tracks. So go back to what the new chap in Suffolk, was it John Mackenzie, I think, regarding paint. I think most of the UK clubs use a basic Santec smooth grey paint.
Graham.
Was it? Cheers, John. Thank you. I say most of the UK clubs, I believe, just use a basic Santec smooth paint of a grey colour. Obviously, you can put a bit of white in it, or a bit of black in it, dark, whatever, shade it. Regarding oil tyres, E1's Allen aren't designed to go on air hubs. They're designed to go from solid hubs, a bit like the Planet 32s, etc. I predominantly use NSR Ultras, 19x10s up to sort of, I tend to go through 11s rather than the 12s because the 11s will soon expand to about 12. So, you'll have to end up sanding the sides down. I glue them on. Before I glue them, I just run around the hub with a little diamond file, just rough it up. I just use a basic Loctite, really quick super glue, of which I think Neil was asking about the Truer. I've just changed my standing discs on my. I've got the Australian sort of Area 71 Truer. It's similar to what Greg's got with a little plate. And all I did was ripped off as much sandpaper as I could, run a bit of chisel over it, chiseled off any old super glue, basically just cut the pads that I wanted, super glued it, put the pads on, put some weight on it, left it for an hour, took it off, started using it. Sorry, going back to tyres. Sand the
I
hubs.
mean, I'm familiar with oiling tires, and I do that, but I generally just dab it on with my finger and give it 5 minutes, and then dry it off and use it. But I was
So
wondering
what
about spending hours running them against one another on those machines.
You can do. I think a lot of people tend to overoil their tires. Yeah. As I say, I've just done a set of tires for a car. I used it at Oxford yesterday, and I'm going to try it at Rockingham on Friday. Sand the hubs, just gently sand the inside of the tires. Sit the tires on the wheel. Make sure they're all looking true. As you know, there are some wonky tires out there. Great. Peel back one side, little bit of super glue in, run around with a knife, let it go. Do the next one. A minute later, turn them over, do the insides. What I've done with that car is I haven't trued it. I've taken it to Oxford and I've trued the tires on the track. So I'm then going to, I've put a little bit of oil on them. I'm going to try it rocking them and see how they go. But with oil, I tend to put a very little amount of oil. I think just actually running around on the track, cleaning the tires, keeping them clean, you know, you've got free practice or whatever, just put some mileage on the tires and they'll soon come up to grip. But I'd say, I think a lot of people over-oil them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as Alan was saying, they have changed. They've got softer. You know, from what we were racing 10, 15 years ago to what we're racing now, the rubber's so much softer.
That's probably they used to need a lot of oil, but now they don't. But people are still doing what they used to do.
Yeah.
Well, my SCX DTM, which I've spoke about a few times on the chat, has got SCX OEM tires on, and they're no longer available, as I understand. I've struggled to get back axles, struggled to get gears. Still haven't succeeded in doing that. But those tires, I've noticed, absolutely drink the oil. You can dabble a little bit on, look back at them a couple of minutes later and wonder whether or not you've actually done it, because it's just all soaked into it. And you can do them 5 or 6 times before the oil will actually sit on the surface for any length of time. And I've tried doing it from about midday on the day of the race, and I've oiled once every hour for about 5 or 6 hours until I've left to go to the club. And I've also been unable to do that and gone to the club and just thrown the car on the track. Well, I don't remember ever throwing it on the track with dry tires, but giving it 5 minutes, you know, and then wiping it off and throwing it on the track. And I've had no real difference between the nights when I've managed to do plenty of oiling during the afternoon and the night when I didn't do the oiling during the day. I managed to get similar competitive standards, shall we say, rather than similar lap times. But because similar lap times is weather dependent and temperature dependent, isn't it? So I prefer how competitive I was, and I can't find a difference. But those tires are very, very different to any of the cars I've got on Slotted, because the Slotted N22 tire, which is our de facto alternative to OEM tires, doesn't fit on the SCX wheel at all. Well, it's a terrible shape, and the one car that I've seen running that has got them on falls over because it's just got too much grip for the height of its center of gravity.
Yeah, right. So, you know, I've at Oxford, we run a standard SEX class. Change the rear tires, you can change the brake, put some weight in it, put smaller tires on the front, etc. type thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to run a Lola. I've got a couple. I've got the black and white one with all the little sponsors on it, and the yellow, blue, and whatever color. And as you said, the wheels are really funny size, aren't they?
Yeah.
So when I was first looking for a true, everyone said, "Oh, huddy, huddy, huddy," but I wanted something I could do a whole axle on. So what I did was pop the rear axle out, took the tires off, put the axle in the truer, and the same thing with a little diamond file. You know, the little, because basically what it is, Alan, Wayne, is the inner ridge is too wide, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So with a little diamond file, just sand it down. So now
and make the wheel suit the tire.
Exactly. So now I run ultra grips on it, and it's not fast, but round the corners, nothing staying with it. It's just straight through
Well,
the corners.
if I could get myself another rear axle, I would do that, and I would attempt to try and tune the car to run a set of N22s, because I have said to myself that if the way, going by the way the car drives, and it does shift the back end around, it's very forgiving, but it does move around quite a bit. If I could get it to work on a set of N22s, then that would be the quicker way. But I haven't got another rear axle. I haven't got another pair of rear wheels, and I literally can't test that because I haven't found the bits to try it to do it yet. If I do that, I would have to put quite a bit of weight in the car to get the CG low enough to stop it falling over. And I'm fearful that if I make a car heavy on that motor, then it will be slow, because that motor is not the most powerful.
Well, we might have to circle back on tuning Wayne's DTM for the 5th or 6th time.
Yeah.
For now, we got a couple of hands raised. Petrucci, I'm guessing you have another tool you wanted to show, and then we'll get to Frank. You're still muted, by the way.
I forgot to take my hand down. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. I'll take it down for you.
Okay.
Frank, go ahead. What you got?
Well, painting a track is intriguing me now. I've got a Scalectric Sport 2-lane track. So I've got a couple of questions. One, do you paint the track apart, or can you paint it already put together? And two, do you just use a brush?
So I painted my portable track. So on my garage track, I painted the pit lane gray. I've not painted the entire track, but I used the same paint on my portable track. And when I painted it, I basically masked off the rails with some blue painter's tape, and then ran a nice sharp blade along the rails to pull off the tape next to the rail. And then I just rollered it. I just used a small paint roller and just rollered it like I was painting a wall. And that's it. The only prep work I did, I didn't use any fancy primers or anything like that. I did go over it with a rag and some. I think I used acetone just because I had a can of acetone. So I just kind of did a quick dip and wiped to make sure there were no oils or other residues on there. It partially removed some of the paint striping on the power base track, on my digital track. But otherwise, I just cleaned off any residue from the track. And then, I've seen people do, fancy primers, or they'll even go over the whole thing with a blowtorch or some other nonsense to try to, whatever their thought process was. I don't think that's necessary. Just make sure there's no schmutz on the track, and then paint it. Use a brush if you want, use a roller if you want, just get the stuff on there and keep it off the rails, and you should be fine.
Those little 6-inch foam rollers are the way to go.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, that's what we did. And our daughter and I did it. We didn't even mask it because, she was really good at, even at that age, painting. And take your time and have some fun. But just make, as Greg says, just make sure it's clean. And the other thing too is that I don't know about Scalectric track, but Carrera track unpainted, we found it to be just this wonderful source for adhering dust, because the type of plastic, the more you ran on it, the more it got statically charged, and the worse it got. So we just cleaned it really, really well. And then, and as Greg says, we did the same thing Greg was talking about. There's no word of a lie. We went to like the paint store with the gray that someone chose and didn't buy, and we ended up with a gallon for like almost the price of a pint. So we still have like a ton of it stored upside down, just like a paint bottle. It'll last forever. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That take care of your questions then, Frank? Good to go. Awesome. And since we've got a few minutes left, let's do our Club Corner segment. I already talked about racing on my Monday. Does anybody have any club-related activities they either want to review or preview for people around the world? Any happenings in your club? Any clubs being formed? Neil, just kidding. All right, Mike, what you got?
Well, I just want to report on what happened Monday. We did 350 lap races, and nobody was more than 2 laps apart for the entire time.
That's awesome.
It was just unbelievable. Yeah. So was great fun. Really enjoyed those races. And I didn't win them all on my own track.
Any prospects to add to your numbers, or is it still just you and those other two guys?
Well, we haven't put it on Facebook yet, but it's just me and the other two guys. And we're also going back to doing some of the weeknight races at the 124th. So we'll see. Although I'm a little iffy on that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, with things as they are, it might not be the best timing to look for new members, but it's always worth kind of starting that process, and say, hey, we're gonna, one of these days we're gonna start getting together more often, and we want you to come then. All right, thanks for sharing, Mike. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So I had mentioned that I was getting the new SCX Barracuda chassis, and I'm racing in a class with primarily scale electric cars. And we had 10 people race, and I hadn't got to test the car or anything. I just had to kind of guess where my weights would be and everything. And I took 4th out of 10, and I didn't have the top speed of the 71 Camaros that scale electric has, but it was incredibly smooth. I can't believe how smooth that chassis is once you get it kind of dialed in. I just wish I could get a little more torque out of that motor. Anyway, that was my update. If they keep making more, I'm definitely going to buy a few more of those. I had to stay away from SCX, but with that new motor pod, it's really nice.
Yeah. Do your rules allow a motor change, or you have to just kind of go?
No, my rules don't allow jack squat.
Didn't think so. Just double checking.
Yeah.
Well, do your rules
change opinion? Put a 10 tooth on it.
Change opinion? Yeah. But what my suggestion was going to be is make a little warm up machine, so you can just have the car setting on a warm up machine, getting that motor nice and warm.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the old motors that needed that. Maybe the new motors will get slower as they warm up. I don't know. Are you allowed to change pinions? You can't change.
No.
Yeah, you just.
This is a very antique rule club.
Yeah.
From the 60s, this is pretty much what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. So, what do you got there, Henry? What's happening in your neck of the woods?
We had Saturday our race, and I did in the chat function a link of the YouTube in the beginning of the.
Okay.
So everybody can see it afterwards. And it was a big success. We drove at 2 digital lanes, my Dakar rally raid, with 10 guys in teams. So we started about 12 o'clock and ended about 6 o'clock at the evening. So it was a blast. Yeah, everybody enthusiastic about digital racing. So yeah, we're gonna continue this.
And that's a cool video. For those who haven't already seen the video, it's like you said, it's raid racing. So it's digital. It's on a basically a Ninco digital track surface that you've modeled with like desert scenery and things like that. And there's raid trucks. How many did you have on at once? 6 or? 6.
Yeah. It was too busy. 6.
6 cars at the same time on a 2-lane digital raid track. It's a kick in the pants. You definitely want to spend a minute to look at that video. I'll put the link in the description for those who are watching it later on. So thanks very much for sharing that, Henry. What do you got there, Frank?
I wanted to ask Jeremy. He mentioned that he was doing a Trans Am class with Scalectrics and SCX. What tires were they running on? I know he runs the SCX, I think he said.
The tires that the club runs are all silicone. So
okay.
And once you go to silicone, there's no going back.
Well, especially with those Trans Ams, we've tried racing the OEMs and oiling them and doing all kinds of weird stuff, and the OEMs don't do anything. They're just too hard.
Yeah, which kind of that actually brings me to a kind of a question. Well, I don't want to disrupt the thing, but I'll ask it later.
We'll swing back to you. Raise your hand later, and we'll swing back to that. Did you have anything club related, Frank, or was just wanted to address Jeremy's issue?
I just wanted to address Jeremy's. Thanks.
Oh, you're not gonna tell him about the race at Eddie?
Apparently, he doesn't want to. He's too ashamed of whatever happened there.
What did you ask, Dennis? I'm sorry.
whether you were going to talk about the race at Eddie's track.
Oh, well, yeah, I could talk about that. We did have a race far out at Eddie Shore's mini Bullock track, which is.
While you're doing that, I'm going to share the video.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Eddie did post it. Yeah. We had 16 racers show up.
So.
Which was really nice, and a good mix of some people that hadn't raced in a long time, even before COVID, and most of us who haven't raced since then. Now, this is the fourth in their series. It was the first one I got to race at because of the COVID restrictions. Eddie's track is on his patio, so being outside, I got permission from the family to actually go because we have a few issues within our family with immune systems. But we had a good time. 16 of us went, and of course, you know who won. Good old Fast Eddie. It is his home track, and he knows it very, very, and a few more very wells. Yeah, there it is. And as you can see, it's there on his patio. He lifts up those plastic sheets, and that way we're there. Some great pictures. Thank you, Dennis. We slotted DTM stock and NSR1 stock. In fact, all of our classes are stock. A few of them we can change tires. Most of them we just use the OEMs. It was a very fun day.
That's quite a neat track.
Yeah, it is. It's fun.
I have a question about that. What's your racing format like? Is it just round robin?
Yes,
okay.
Round robin, 3-minute races. Then we, at the end of each heat, we actually, there's markings on the track for the different lengths, and that's put into the computer system. And we have a computer program that will add all that up for us and tell us the total amount of laps at the end to go, 1 through whatever.
Was that race coordinator? It looked familiar, but I wasn't.
Like it.
TrackMate.
TrackMate.
That was TrackMate? Okay.
Yeah, but
that was TrackMate. Go ahead, Dennis.
Sorry. Yeah, you go, Frank. It's your club.
Well, no, I was just going to say it's a TrackMate system, and I don't know what the name of the computer program they use, but Dennis probably does.
I seem to remember that they basically have a laptop with a big ass Excel spreadsheet on it because
yes,
they don't run. The club doesn't run the regular round robin thing where you come in and you race your lanes and you go out. They mix those things up. So every heat will be a different combination of people, and that is controlled in the spreadsheet. So the TrackMate system is only really collecting laps and sections for each heat,
right?
And that's why you don't see any names on the screens.
They're racing more like the European round robin then,
well,
where you never race by the same guy each time.
That's right, but it's not a rotation that is supported by the TrackMate software.
Yeah, sounds like
it's separate.
Yeah, it is separate. Thank you, Dennis.
All right, what's happening in your neck of the woods, Alan?
What's happening is Scalextric are getting interested in clubs. This is a new thing.
Again.
And Simon from Scalextric put out a note on Slot Forum, and he's several clubs have started to pile in there and say, hey, what is it you're looking for? And it's clear that as a company, they somehow want to know what people are racing at clubs. And if they're racing their cars, and if we're not racing their cars, why are we not racing their cars? Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know whether this is driven by, European Union upcoming rules about magnets. So notice that in some new cars, the magnets are now welded into the chassis. There may come a time when magnets will be forbidden in toys. Now, Scalextric's main business model is to sell tracks at, Walmart, Tesco's, or whatever. They're not into the boutique cars and selling. That's not where they make their money. But somehow Scalextric are getting interested now in what clubs are doing. And I think this is great. A lot of people kind of poo-poo what Scalextric does because of the way their cars are. But I think that if Scalextric got interested in what clubs are doing, learned what clubs are doing, and started to produce things that we would want to drive, I think that can only benefit the hobby, because they're a big manufacturer. I would love them to come to the table. Now, they've tried this a couple of times before, And the last initiative was the Slotted Pro Chassis Ready adapters, where you could put a new chassis and a slotted pod, but change of management and all of that got washed away. So let's see whether, Simon from Scalextric, because they said they want to visit some clubs over here and they want to see what we're doing. Just to watch this space. I'd be well up for it if Scalextric want to be involved with clubs and want to produce better cars, mechanically better cars, because their bodies are very nice, but mechanically the cars are not. So that's just to watch this space.
I thought the
Can you
PCR
share the
was
link to that?
fantastic. I hope they go back to the PCR or even provide cars with that kind of instead of providing the base chassis, provide it with the potted chassis, or at the very least revitalize that concept. I think that was great. What were you asking, Jeremy?
I was saying, can you post a link to that discussion you said from Simon?
Yeah, I will
Thank
find it somewhere. It's on Slot Forum. I'll find it somewhere. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but we'll see where it goes. I don't think that the PCR is something that they would resurrect. However, other slot car manufacturers, SRC, they do a standard version and they do a chrono version of most of their cars. So the chrono comes with a lightweight interior with a different pod and different wheels and things like that. It would be great.
No
for
wheel
Scalextric.
inserts.
The
Sorry?
SRCs still don't come with inserts? What is up with that?
Not the chrono versions, no.
I have to ask a question. Banning magnets?
I bet it's a
No.
kid ate one or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Really? Oh, gee whiz.
Yeah, a young girl died recently. It was a battery out of a these new LED lights you can get that change colours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's a little tiny remote control. Anyway, it was a battery out of that, so it looked like a little sweetie type thing. She swallowed it, and then obviously gastric acids and the acid in the back. By the time they got her to hospital, she was basically unsavable because obviously it just eaten through her. So yeah, unfortunately, little accident, they make it a law for it nowadays, don't they? It's unfortunately the culture we live in.
But that's battery, that's not magnet.
It's not
Yeah,
magnet.
but magnets, Dennis, are as more of a threat actually,
Yeah.
because if you swallow 2 niobium magnets, they can squash the intestine and create a crimp. And basically, that's the end of you unless you get to hospital and get opened up and they take that out. And of course, children don't know if they put these things in their mouths and swallow them. So I do feel as though the toy market is going to be at least forced to have magnets that are welded into a chassis that can't be got out. Or it may be that these kind of toys for sale to under 16s, magnets are just not going to be allowed. So we will see how that pans out. And that may be one of the driving factors for Scalextric looking at clubs, because they may be interested in how we run all these cars without magnets, because they clearly know that we do. So let's see how that goes.
So they actually might be building a half decent chassis then.
They have the resources. They definitely have the resources. Hornby is a big company, and with the right expertise and knowledge, they could produce some fantastic technology. But they haven't so far.
Honestly, you should not write off the standard Scalextric chassis. There's a lot of potential in a standard flat plate. We've seen track record change at our club this last Friday. I wasn't there in person, but the Scalextric GT3 category managed to get to 144 laps over 20 minutes. And that is the same as the modified fly cars now do. They do about 140 plus. And like I say, the Scalextric GT3 managed to get there as well.
Yeah, we know from
Wayne, I would say
that pods are not necessarily a performance thing. They're a cost-saving measure for modularity and making it so that you can do you can churn out 10,000 of the same motor pods without having to churn out 10,000 of the exact same chassis for a car that you're not going to sell 10,000 units of, right? So it's a cost saving measure, not necessarily a performance thing. Obviously, we've been able to get better performance out of potted things, but like Chris has shown and Dennis has shown, a stiff chassis, as long as it's flat and straight and all four of the wheels are touching and all four of the wheels are true and at their appropriate heights and everything, those are fantastic chassis. It's not a pod or not pod thing. It's a how straight everything is and how true the round things are and how
exactly
how much play there is and whether things are properly oiled and stuff like that, which kind of leads to the whole, can you make a race ready car out of the box? And the answer is yes, but it will require a whole lot of hands-on with each and every car, and therefore a whole lot of money out of your pocket. And it still will only race on one kind of track because you can only prep a car one way, which might not be the way that you're racing the car. So you might pay $200 for a race-ready car and still have to do all the same work you normally do because it was prepped for a track you don't race on with specs you don't race with. But yeah, I look forward to finding out what Scalextric come up with. I'm transitioning to the ending part because we're at our 2 hours, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. But of course, as always, we will continue chatting and talking about Scalextric and other things and answering questions and whatnot. So if you are not watching live or participating, but you can, come and join us, just like several new people have today. The link is easy to find. Search for Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, and you'll find a link to the next show, and we hope to see you there. Until then, everybody wave. Bye!